It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Yisroel Abelesz. We're here in Temple Fortune in London, in your beautiful house. And Yisroel, if you could tell us a little bit about your family, where you came from, and a little bit about how you eventually came to London.
Okay. My name is Yisroel Abelesz, and I would like to give you a bit of my background. I was born in a small place in Hungary called Kapuvar, which is very near to the Austrian border. And we have lived in a loving family. There was a Jewish school, and parallel with the Jewish school there was also a cheder. So I had a very good Jewish education. As far by the time of when I was bar mitzvah, I was already learning more on my own.
What year were you born in?
I was born in 1930.
And you, how many siblings did you have?
I had six siblings. Altogether we were 6 people, and 5 of us survived out of the 6. My youngest brother, who was sent on the wrong side when we arrived in Auschwitz, with my father, mother, grandparents, and the whole community of Kapuvar. But anyway, I will start with the beginning rather. Until 1944, though the war was fierce along Hungary, all the adjoining countries were occupied by the Germans. Hungary was still independent. Horthy was a regent of Hungary. He was working with Hitler. He was an ally of Hitler against the Soviet Union. But as far as the Jews is concerned, he wouldn't allow Hitler wanted to deport the Hungarian Jews, and he resisted until 1944, when he was sidelined because he was already carrying out negotiations with the Allies for surrendering Hungary, and Hitler came to know, because he was not a very successful politician, Horthy. But as far as in his zachus, he wouldn't even say that he loved the Jews. He didn't love the Jews because under his regime were a lot of restriction put on the Jewish people. But that was, he said, as he explained it, he wants to take out that the anti-Semites, who were also his opponents, the real anti-Semites, that they shouldn't do more. So he wanted to keep a balance between the rivaling parties. And that's why he said he was forced to bring on some anti-Semitism. That's what his excuse after the war. But we got on all right. I mean, remember, we very respected Horthy, and on his birthday we went to the shul, and we down Hanoi in the shul Amlochim and all this nonsense. And I lived at home. We had a successful business, grocery wholesale, and it was, even during the war years until 1944, we had no problems. The parnossos were all right, and we lived in a undisturbed life. And towards 1944, I remember in Purim time, by that time I was in a yeshiva, in the local yeshiva, and we were so happy that the war is coming to an end, because it was already easing up restriction on the Jews. Horthy made already, and then Hitler struck, occupied Hungary in one day, in 19th of March 1944, and then everything has changed. Then we realized that the game is up. We have very difficult times are coming.
Sean, could I just interrupt for a minute? Did your family know what was going on with the camps, or?
We had an idea.
You had a bit of an idea.
There was always some survivors, some refugees from Poland, from Slovakia. Slovakia was under Nazi occupation. There was deportation from Slovakia.
So you had an idea.
In 1942, we are living in or a miklot, like a save. In Hungary is safe. Hungary is going to, the Hungarian Jews is going to survive this upheaval. And that's what we thought until Hitler struck. As soon as he came in, Horthy was sidelined. He was forced to appoint a new prime minister who was already a prominent pro-Nazi, a servant of Hitler, and started making restrictions on the Jews. You have to wear yellow stars. That was a start. 2 or 3 weeks after the occupation came out of the first edict, all the Jewish people above 6 have to wear a star, yellow star. Then the Jewish shops were closed, and the Jewish communities were disbanded, and instead every town has been appointed a Judenrat, Jewish committee who was taking orders from the local authorities how to organize. They have to give the name and the address of all the Jewish people in the town. And a few weeks later, that was in March of the occupation, by May, they said all the Jewish people who live outside the main road, they have to move with Jewish families in the main road. So we lived in there, so we have taken another 2 families, and we were there living in Pachad. What is going to be the next step? We didn't have to wait too long. We knew already that in some part of the Hungary already the Jewish people are not at home, because they started the deportation from the eastern part of Hungary, and our area came almost to the last. But you knew when the people were written letters to people in the eastern part of Hungary. They came back, address the unknown, moved away. So we knew that they were deported. So our turn came on the 18th of June, when it was a Sunday morning. The gendarmerie, the Hungarian fascistic, which was a police, but mainly they were concerned about it was a very anti-Semitic organization, and they were doing the deportation. So we knew before on Shabbos, people knew that there is a strange gendarmerie moved into the town. So because they made it that not the local gendarmerie should be busy with the collection of the Jews, always from somewhere else. On Saturday morning we were woken up, 6 o'clock, take your belongings, whatever you can carry, with food, with some change of clothing, and assemble in front of on the main road. We were already every Jewish person was already there, and we were taken to a school where they went over personal, what is called, personal search, body search including, and the people who found with jewelry or money, they were confiscated, and those people who were known as they are rich, they were taken home. They had to forced under physical threatening and that they should dig out whatever they tried to bury. We were taken by the night. In the evening we were taken to Sopron in the ghetto. Sopron, that was the nearest town, and where there was Sopron Jewish people were also in another ghetto near to our ghetto, and that was like a brick yard where they make bricks, and there was no building, just a small buildings, and there were a few buildings with cover, and most of the people, they have to sleep outside on the ground. But we knew that this is only temporary. We cannot be too long. And after being there for about a week, they were taken to the transportation, 80 persons per wagon in cattle trucks, and we went away on our journey back to through Kapuvar, Budapest, and then turned north. Then we knew already that we are going to Poland, which was a very bad omen, because we knew that Poland is already devoid of Jews and they were all disposed, doesn't exist. So after 3 days of journey, all back together, men, women, children, babies, old people. I don't remember that there was any because we had water and had enough food with us. In fact, they gave us for every wagon they gave us a few loaves of bread. It was a journey. But after it was Friday evening, we arrived to a big town. We knew it's a big town. I was always watching through the slit on the top of the windows so that I can notice where we are. And we noticed already Polish towns, Novi Sad, which was New Sons, and Tarnów, Rzeszów, and then it came to a very big town because the trains were shunted from one place to another the whole night, and that was, we knew that it's Krakow. And in the morning or Shabbos morning, which was Shivos Betamus, Nitcha, we arrived, and my father said we had a bit of bronflu. He says, yes, I'm making Kiddush now because I don't know where we are going to be, when we are going to be. So let's make Kiddush on the train. We made Kiddush, and everybody has to get out of the train and lined up, men and women separately, and children go to the women, and men, adults separately. So I had a younger brother, and he was confused. Where should I guess? I said, I'm going with the men because I'm an adult. And you go with mommy because you are 11-year-old, so you're a child. So that's why it happened. So after within minutes, I found myself in front of a German officer. It was later on I know who was it, Dr. Mengele, who was made the selection, who is going to go right away to the gas chambers and who is going to be sent into camp locally, and then from there he will be distributed somewhere else to work. So when Mengele saw me, he asked me, "Wo alt bist du? How old are you?" So I said to him, "I'm 14 Jahre, jetzt war mein Geburtstag." I said, just had my birthday 2 days before. In the train. So he says to me, Geburtstag, very good, very good. He repeated it twice. It's very good that you got birthday. And I was with one of my oldest brother. He told me, you go this way. My father wanted to follow me and said, no, you go the other way. So on that day I lost both my parents and my younger brother, and we were taken into a barracks. Jugendliche barrack, it was a youngsters barrack, so people from between the age of 15 to 17, 18. And we just been there. There was hardly see any assessment. It was run, the camp was run, the barracks were run by the local subordinates, kapos and Blockaltester and Stubendienst. And we had to learn how to live there. In the morning we were given a black drink, coffee. Lunchtime we were given a cooked meal, something which was made from desiccated vegetables, all kinds. And the evenings they gave us a portion of bread. So this was the 3 meals which we were looking for the whole day, because there was nothing else to do except in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, there was always a roll call when we had to stand up by 5 just to count it, just to see an assessment. That's the only time when we see in the camp an assessment. He just counted us, and it was tallies, whatever it has to be, and he went off, and immediately started sharing out the evening meals. Well, it was very. Of course, the food was cooked, the bread, with the bread they have given us always every day something, either a bit of jam or a bit of honey or some kind of meat. My brother hasn't touched. I was together with my brother, who was about, at that time, 17. I was 14. And he kept an eye on me, because from there they were taking away people who were able to work into different camps. And my brother was always being a tall, handsome boy, was always taken, rolled into the, and he has to make efforts that he should stay behind, because I was not taken. So he wanted to be with me to keep an eye, to help me to survive. So he went on the whole summer. Later on, my brother has been introduced to the kitchen, and they managed to smuggle out some food, so the food situation has been eased up a bit. I was not starving. I was only starving for the first few weeks. We had extra money, extra food. So it went on the whole summer like that. Nothing else, just. And we knew that some transport arrived to Auschwitz. By that time, gradually, we found out what is going on in front of us. That what we see at night, fire coming out. There was when they are burning the bodies, the crematorium couldn't cope, so they made ordinary ditches and burning the body, and that's what we saw. And the smell was also awful. And we asked people who were there a bit longer, so that's where they are burning your parents. I said, no, this cannot be. This is just. But then in August the 3rd, because only the half of the lager of that lager, it was called a lager. Originally it was called Czech lager, because the Czech people who were taken from Theresienstadt, they were there for 6 months. After 6 months, they were taken to the gas chambers. But then it was called Zigeuner lager, gypsy camp, because half of the camp, one side of the camp, were gypsies. Also they had a very similar fate like us. Only one day there was a Blocksperre, it means locking all the barracks, mustn't go outside. And we heard screaming from the gypsy camps. In the morning, there was no gypsies anymore in the camp. They were all taken to the gas chambers, and it was a resistance by the gypsies. They knew already where they are going, so that they jumped on the Germans. They wouldn't let their children, and they came with dogs, and it was ugly scenes, which I haven't seen it, I only heard it. But anyway, by the afternoon, the camp was empty. And we knew that the people, when they say that they're taken to the gas chambers, is true. And that we stayed another few weeks in the summer. That was in August. And later on the summer, when it came October, came the Jewish festivals. Every Shoshana, as they called out, all the inhabitants of the camps have to assemble on the plaza of the camp, because the young boys they are taken to a children's camp, and they were a much better treatment in the children's camp. But I was aware that there is no such thing as children's camp, and that's where they were taken. They were taken into the gas chamber. So that most of the children on my age or a bit older, they couldn't care, they couldn't cope, and they were about between 1,000 or 2,000 children were selected on that day, Erev Rosh Hashanah. And Motzei Rosh Hashanah, they were taken to the gas chambers. That was when Rabbi Meisels who managed to get a shofar in the camp, and he blown the shofar on Shona for the children who were ready to their sacrifice. Afterwards, the same thing happened. How did I manage not to get in the camp? Because as soon as I was selected to go with the children, I jumped out from them and I ran to the people who were selected to the right side. And nobody noticed it, and I got away with it. And when it came to the second selection, that was Erev Yom Kippur, I tried the same trick again. By that time, they were not talking about children camps. They took off we knew everybody knew where is the selection going. And I tried the same trick to run away, but the Lageraltester, who was a German prisoner, also was a prisoner, but he was a criminal. He was wearing a green badge, which means criminals, because the red badge was political prisoners. The political prisoners, they were very decent to us. Had a Blockadtester who was a red. He must have been a socialist or communist or liberal, but he really treated us very well. He was hiding some children under the bed when it came to selection. So I was also selected there, and he noticed me, and he sent one of his subordinates, a Jewish guy, go and run after that boy and bring him here. So when he got hold of me, he said to me in Yiddish, "Lauf weg von mir," run away from me. I understand what he said, and I made a bit of struggle and let me go. And I looked around, where can I go? When he's got his eyes on me, he saw me where I'm going. So I was a Russian prisoner of war camp, a war barrack, who were Russian prisoners of war, their own barrack. And I ran to them, and they made me away, and I ran into the barrack. And the Lageraltester wanted to come after me, and the Russian prisoner said to me, this is our barrack, you have got no right to enter, and if you come in, we can guarantee you won't get out. So he decided to back out. And I stayed with the Russians until it was dark, when the campus quietened out, and under the cover of darkness, I went back to my brother, who was not selected, who was waiting for me. He presumed that I'm in the lockdown barracks. And he made already arrangement to bail me out, because it was before they took them away. You could with a Blockadtester, if you give him something, either foreign currency or in my case a sack of potatoes, which is smuggled out at the great risk from the kitchen. And he says yes. So he called out my name. He says, "I'm sorry, nobody replies to that name," because I was not there. So when he saw me turning up later in the night, he said, "Baruch Mechaya Mesim," because he was already thought that I will be a goner. So there was another selection a few days later. By that time, I found out that the selections are during the early morning in the mornings, and people can volunteer in the morning for voluntary work around the camp, and they were not subject of the selection. So I volunteered. I done some work there, so I was not there when the selection took place. And soon after that, we heard rumors that the no more gassing take place in Auschwitz, and Auschwitz will be eventually evacuated, because they knew already that the front is getting nearer. The Russians are getting nearer to Auschwitz. So in the meantime, I got very ill. I don't know what happened. Until then, I was quite in good health with the help in the kitchen, for the kitchen, whatever smuggled out. But then I had a very high temperature, and they sent me to the Birkenau hospital for evaluation of what's wrong with me. The hospital haven't had a good name, because most of the people, they got in, but they don't get out of there. So my brother said to me, "Look, we don't know what's going to happen. You have to go into the hospital, but you should know when you go to the gas chamber, we send you to the gas, you should say just Shema Yisroel, and it's a great zechus to be killed for Kiddush Hashem." And I started shouting at him, "I don't want to die for Kiddush Hashem. I want to live for Kiddush Hashem." That's what I remember. I shouted at him. Anyway, it was not from that was really the hospital. They later discovered me that I've got a disease which is very, what they say, it's very, you can catch it, no?
It's contagious.
A very contagious disease. So I've been taken into the separate barrack, which is for the people who got contagious disease. I was suspected later, and I found on my card. I got it when I got home some years later. I got it. I got my card back from the Auschwitz archives, and it said when I arrived in the hospital, and then it said a few days later, typhus verdacht is suspected typhoid, and then another 2 days later it said typhus confirmed. So I was sent to that, and that was a very good place. That contagious barrack. We had a separate bed each, everybody, and the food was good, and it was warm, and don't have to go out to work. And I have recovered myself, and I was helping the doctors. I made myself useful.
Were the Yiddish doctors?
Yes, it was 3 doctors in my barrack. In the barrack, 2 of them were Jewish, one of them from France, and one of them from Czech. And the top of them were a Polish non-Jewish, but he also was very nice. What he could like it, I was not. I was always wearing my mützen, my cap, because I just couldn't go blood scop. I couldn't take it. I had no talus, no tefillin, no kosher, nothing. But that's what I couldn't give up. And always shot him. But let's take off your mützen. Never take off it. So I took it off, and when he was not looking, I put it back. That went on. I stayed there for 7 weeks.
In the hospital?
In the hospital. It was very good, recovered. And then came January. And January the 16th, they made an announcement. No, they didn't make an announcement. I asked the doctor, what does he think? Should I stay is here, or should I go back to the camp? Should I discharge myself? I said, look, you could have discharged yourself before, because you were 100% healthy. Another point, very interesting point, while I was recovering from this disease, they asked, the doctor said to me, there is a request from the German, from the SS, whether I was willing to donate blood to the assessment, a serum against this illness. And I said, they're asking me? I said, yes, they're asking you, but I don't advise you should refuse. So I said, okay, I'll give. So it took blood from me, and I forgot about it. They gave me extra food for it. And 2 weeks later comes an assessment into the barrack, and it looks name Abelesz, and Kalman Abelesz. He said, this is a present from the SS for you, because you have volunteered to give blood. A whole length of Wurst. Gave it to me from the SS. That was one of the things which mentioned it. Nobody, it's never happened to anybody.
I've never heard such a thing.
Some mentioned it. That was the truth. So, but then we knew that the front is getting nearer. So I said to the doctor, shall I go back to the camp, or shall I stay in the hospital? He said, good knows what's going to happen to us, what's going to happen to anybody. Do what you think you like. So I decided very unwisely to report back to the camp. So I was fitted out winter clothing, shoes, overcoats, civilian clothes with a window in the back, that's all. And I went into the camp. So the camp gave me a place which barrack, And after 2 days, we are going on a march. Everybody is going to the march. So then I realized that I took the wrong decision. So, but I went on the march.
This was the death march.
Yeah, that ended up in the death march. But after walking 24 hours from morning to the next morning, there was some people just about on the verge of collapse, and there came the assessment. Not assessment; they were just ordinary people who cannot walk further. They should stand aside, and they will take it to a small camp for rest. So I had no barrier, but I was afraid they were going to shoot us on the spot. But it was true. They took us into a camp, a small camp near Auschwitz, was 30 kilometers from Auschwitz. I'd done 30 kilometers in that 24 hours. And a German soldier who accompanied us to the camp, I was just collapsing on the way. I was just couldn't move further. So he shouted at me and he helped me, push me all the time until I got to the camp.
That's unbelievable. A German soldier.
What?
A German soldier helped you.
A German Wehrmacht, a middle-aged guy. Wehrmacht, not assessment. And he said to me, "Do blow the care, you stupid boy! Can't you see we are here? Just pull yourself together. We are here." So we got there. We got into the camp. I laid down myself down for the first empty bed, empty, and I fallen asleep. I dropped. They were given a blanket and a tin of something which never had a chance to open it because I threw it away. I had no open it. But the bread I hold it in my arm, and I laid down to the bed and I fallen asleep. And I put my bed under my head. When I woke up, the bread was disappeared already.
Right.
But hunger was not the priority thing. Just we are here. I think we got something to eat. I don't remember that. But anyway, after staying there for about 3 days, the Germans came back. The assessment came back. They said, "Everybody out. We are going further. We are going by train now." They told us this. We are going by train. It was not train. It was just walking. I said, "No, this is not for me." I thought to myself. So when the Germans went, I know the Germans were running in and out, like confused. They were confused, the Germans. So I said, under the confusion, I found a very low bench, and I climbed in there, under the floor, under the bed, and the Germans came back. "Anybody's here? Anybody will be shot if he doesn't come out." I kept stum, and for about 3-4 hours, it was deadly quiet. Then I heard screaming. The Russians are here. The Russians arrived to liberate us. The Russian soldiers. Three Russian young soldiers came into the camp. They were dressed in white camouflage because it was snow, it was January. And you know what was their first question is, "Have you got something to eat? We are hungry." I said, "Oh, Boine Shroilem are liberators. They are coming to for food." They said, "Sorry, we can't help you." Anyway, that was the introduction with the Russians. They wanted to buy bread. Later on, it of course they already reached the kitchen, they were just. And that's how, one day or another, I was liberated. It was a new life.
What happened is a lot of the people got food and they ate too much, and no such a danger, because we haven't when the Americans liberated, not when the Russians. They were not very generous with the food, so I don't have to worry about it. Most of the time, we have to go schnorring in the villages for food. Until we got to Krakow, which was already a Jewish organization who looked after the survivors. Yisroel, can I ask, what happened to the rest of your siblings? You were with your brother in Auschwitz?
My brother was also in a hospital, a different barrack, and he was survived. He survived and they didn't touch anybody in the hospital. if I would have stayed in the hospital, I would have survived without anything, without going this walk. And my brother survived, and as soon as he survived, he went out of the camp, and he disappeared. Because I knew about people told me that they saw him survive. He was healthy, he was survived, but disappeared from the. What happened to him? The Russians got hold of him and they took him to Russia.
They took him to Russia?
Yeah, he was there for 8 months.
And did you know, or you?
No, we knew already later on towards the end of the 8 months. We knew about on the list that they are coming back to Hungary. And he went back to Hungary.
Why did they take him to Russia?
Because there were a lot of civilians, Germans who changed into civilians. Because everybody is a grown-up civilian, and no family and no local connection was suspect. And they took them to Russia, and then we'll investigate.
And the rest of your siblings, I know your younger brother, unfortunately, but the rest of your siblings?
My 2 oldest brothers, they were in the Hungarian army, under the Hungarian army, and they had a very bearable time. That's my oldest brother's story.
So they never went to Auschwitz?
Never went to Auschwitz. My sister went through Auschwitz and he came back.
And
survived.
Can I ask, when did you see your sister again?
In July, in the summer. Then they came back they were liberated near Bergen-Belsen. Also, my brother was also liberated there, and my sister's fiancé. And they got married immediately when they came home.
Back in Hungary or?
In Hungary. In Kapuvar, when we got home, my brother was the first person. My brother was liberated near Kapuvar, because he was in Hungary. He never left Hungary. Yeah, it's a most fascinating his story. He had a very good treatment in the Hungarian labor camp with the Hungarian army. They were playing football matches, Jews against the Hungarians, even there.
Wow. And the house that you lived in?
No, we found everything was full of rubbish.
But nobody took over the house?
No.
And you went back into that house, your original house?
Cleared up, yeah. And we opened up the shop. My brother opened up a shop which was in front of the house. He started dealing with all kind of things which were doing very well. Because we were near Austrian border, so we had the Russian soldiers who were free. There were no borders for the Russians, and we managed to, through them, to smuggle in and out of Austria.
And how was the encounter when you saw your brother and you saw your sister? You must have been very emotional when you.
What happened when I arrived in Budapest? I got off the train. First, I stopped in Miskolc. In Miskolc, I had a rucksack. I got my belongings. I was walking in the street, and then I saw Hasidim going against me, and he says to me, "You're Jewish?" I said, "Yes." "You know what is today?" I said, "I don't know what is today." "Today is Shabbos. You know what is Shabbos?" He asked me. I said, "I know what is Shabbos. Until a years ago, I was learning yeshiva, and I was telling you what I've learned it." So they invited me. I had a Shabbos dinner meal, but in the evening I had to go to Budapest. I couldn't stay in Miskolc. So I arrived Sunday morning on Budapest. We had some documents that we are deportees, so we can travel without ticket. So they are giving us some money, Hungarian rubbish money. And when I arrived with my black stripes, they knew that I came back from Auschwitz. So everybody surrounded me. They haven't seen anybody, a child, who survived Auschwitz.
That's the only clothes you had? You never had another?
No, that's on. I went home with that. I kept it for a good while because it was a good winter coat. I found in the lining some coins and from the Lodz ghetto, Jewish.
And Yisroel, did you keep the coat?
I keep the coat. I lost it over the years. It was 75 years ago. I don't know what happened to it. I'm sure later on, before the show, I had already a new coat, a new proper. But.
And when did you see your brother and your sister?
So my brother was already in Kapovar, and somebody asked me, "What's your family name?" I said Abelesz. Abelesz, I know somebody Abelesz. That was my cousin who escaped in 1942 from Pressburg, from Slovakia, because 1942 was deportations in Slovakia, but not in Hungary. So Hungary was a safe place, but we have to hide him because we are not allowed to take in anybody who's not Hungarian, or they were taken an internment camp. So he was there in the cellar of my uncle until the Germans occupied Hungary. And then he went to Budapest and he survived in Budapest. And he said to me, and I came to say me, my Gershon, my cousin, and he said, you know, your brother Binyamin is back in Kapovar. I can notify him and he will come to fetch you. So there was no transportation because even in Budapest all the bridges were blown up, and there was trains going from Budapest to Győr, but from the southern part of you have to walk a few kilometers before you got on the train, and then Győr we couldn't go any further from. So he came to see me. I was in the Kazinci Schule, which was opened. And somebody, Adam is a borrowed film, and then suddenly my brother Binyamin is in front of me, and tell me, where are the others? So I said to him, look here, my younger brother and my parents, they are not here, they were killed on arrival. My brother Moshe, who was taken to Hungary, he's alive, but we don't know where. He has arrived to survive, but we don't know where. And then we got notifications that my sister and another brother, he was also in the Hungarian labor camp, but he was taken out to Germany when Hungary was evacuated, before the Germans, before the Russian, and he survived there, very close to where my sister was there. So they met there in Germany, near Bergen-Belsen. And they came back together, and my sister's fiancé was my older sister's fiancé and a cousin, two cousins, girls who were also together all the time, and gradually so they came back, and my brother also turned up just before Rosh Hashanah in 1945. He came in a Russian army uniform, and he said, look, I don't want to stay in Hungary. You do very well in the business, I can see, but I don't want to join the business. So it was a short time he went to in Miskolc. He was learning to be an electrician, and then I had an opportunity to come to England. I had also an opportunity to come here in 1945 because I had an uncle who lived in London. But I said, no, I don't want to leave Hungary. What's wrong here? The business was doing all right. And my brother said to me after a few months, you know, the yeshiva opened up in Szombathely. The Povenarov, who he learned by him, and he's running the yeshiva, and he will go there. So what he said was, I never protested because he was really loco parentis, my older brother. He looked after me. He was 8 years older. He was already in his 20s. And so I learned the yeshiva until 1949, when I realized it, and I didn't want to leave Hungary because Hungary was very good. The business was doing all right, and yeshivas opened up, Jewish communities everywhere. I mean, we had in Kapovar, we had a shul immediately cleared up one of the rooms of the shul, and we had a Sefer Torah, we had a shoichet. They made the mikveh because young people married, they need a mikveh, and a shoichet, and everything was almost like normal.
Yisroel, when you first saw your sister again and your brother, it must have been extremely emotional when you...
Very emotional, very emotional.
But then you had to tell them that what happened to your
Yeah.
parents and to your younger brother.
When I said to my brother, I remember my brother just put down his head on the table in the shul. He was there for a few minutes, and then he composed back his composure. But you see, I was already by that time. I was quite accepted what's happening. You see, but for him it was a shock.
Because they must have had hope that.
And when they came home, they knew already in Germany that people who are young and old and children, they were taken to gas chambers. So they knew already when they came back from Germany.
Sure.
And in 1949, I've decided, you cannot say in Hungary because it was started very regulations against the capitalists. And we were stamped as capitalists because we were wholesaler business, and you couldn't get any stuff from the government wholesalers. And they decided that we should all leave Hungary. So we are very near to the border. So
this is the Austrian border.
What?
The Austrian
border, yeah. Austrian border was just a little rivulet. It was the border. We waded through the river, little river, and we saw. And the one who guided us, he said, "You can see the lights not far from us. That's already Austria." So we went to Austrian, knocked on the first door, who was some light, and we changed our wet clothing. And next morning I took the first train to Vienna, and arrived in Vienna. My brother, that he was trying the same thing. By that time, he had already 3 children. He was trying to get across the border, and he was caught at the border. He was caught by the Hungarian frontier guard, and he was put in prison for 6 months, and he got stuck in Hungary for 7 years.
Because then it became communist. Yeah.
It was not easy to become communist. He was already a stamp that he was to try to get out. So he had a very difficult years, but he survived. Until 1956, when Hungary was a revolution, then everybody, the whole Kahila, everybody left.
And your sister?
Sister, same. The sister also wanted but they found out that my brother was caught, so immediately went home and they pretended that nothing happened. But when they came, the police, they were at home, and they couldn't be charged of border crossing because he was not found on the border, but they knew that he was suspected. He was under police supervision for 3 years. But he couldn't charge him because he was not.
And Yisroel, did you go to Vienna by yourself?
I went by myself. My brother. Yeah, my brother also was in Vienna, one of the brothers who was newly married at that time.
And how long did you stay in Vienna?
Vienna, I stayed about 3 months, and then I came to London to learn yeshiva. And my brother stayed a year in Vienna until he managed to get also to England.
And which yeshiva did you learn in London?
It's Chaim. Rabbi Lapian. So that's my story in a nutshell.
And I just want to ask you, and I'm sure everybody asks, by the time you got to Auschwitz, they weren't doing the tattoos anymore?
The tattoos I was given when I was in the hospital in December.
They still put it on, and you have it?
Yeah.
They still put it on, even... Yeah. Wow. Do you mind if I...
No.
And what is the number? Do you...
B14775.
Wow.
B14775.
Yisroel, it's amazing.
I don't know whether it can come out well with that.
Yeah, I'll just... You know, there are some survivors that actually had it surgically removed. So there are some survivors that...
No.
And
there's nothing pushing me to the movies. Why should I?
Yisroel, what's amazing is that you always wanted to have your head covered. And did all your siblings keep the emunah? Did everybody keep their...
Everywhere came from. There are more. My oldest brothers are all more turned Hasidim. I didn't turn.
And nobody lost the emunah? Nobody...
No.
It's a nice. It's mamish a nice. And you got married in your wife was...
Oh, I got married 10 years later. I tried all kind of jobs and businesses. Was not all that successful until I got married, and then I bought a large house which was let in rooms, and I started getting interest in property. And I started a property business which was doing very well.
And at your chasana, did your siblings, could they come all attend your chasana?
No, the one in Israel couldn't come.
Because it was maybe...
He wanted to also come to England, but my two brothers who were here, they were all married already. And my sister, they made I made my own chasana. I paid for my own savings.
And where did your sister land up?
In Stamford Hill.
In Stamford Hill.
He passed away a year ago.
And you had a brother in Israel as well?
In Israel, he passed away, 8 years ago. And another brother, all they passed away over in their 80s.
Out of all the siblings, are you the only one that is...
I'm the only one who is still here.
Wow.
I'm 92 now.
Kanan Hori, you don't look it. You look so much younger.
Yeah.
And Yisroel,
it's very tiring, this interview, you know.
I know. And Yisroel, can I just ask you, did you discuss what happened to you with your children?
Yes.
They
know they are very much in Holocaust studies. My granddaughter, she's an expert in Holocaust. She went with me always when I give lectures, and she always reminded me what I'm missing.
And
she knows better my story than I do.
Can I ask, when you first went back to Poland and to Auschwitz, because you've taken groups, you went with Rabbi Aubrey Hirsch and other groups, was it very difficult to go back?
Well, the first time was a bit difficult, but then I knew that I'm doing a proper, a good job, so I was willing to do it.
And if I could ask you, what advice do you impart to your children or to the future?
Well, they are all religious of them.
Baruch Hashem, it's not a given.
All my grandchildren, they are married and they are wearing a shaitel, women, and the children go to Jewish schools or various schools. And my cousins, the other brothers, they were Hasidim.
But what message would you give to everybody? You've gone through so much and you've seen so much.
Yeah.
But what message would you give to people?
I give to people Amunah and Chizuk. That's what it is. I'm here. That's itself is a Chizuk for everybody, for people.
And
I get a lot of respect and covered in the shul. I'm going to shul every day. Taking my car, and somebody gives me a lift back.
Baruch Hashem.
And then I got a shir in the morning. That's why I said you should come after 11 o'clock. So
and
that's it.
All the time, you never ever lost your emunah when you were...
Well, I tell you something, with the emunah is like that. Occasionally one has got in the back of the mind, you got, but I'm suppressing it and I'm just carrying on.
Shinas, you always have questions. But it's unbelievable. So Yisroel, I just want to thank you. I'm going to just come inside. I just want to show this your book as well. So Yisroel, I really want to thank you so much. This is the book you so kindly gave me, A Tale of Two Brothers. And I'm so grateful to you, Yisroel.
Thank you very much.
I am extremely grateful. It's been such an honor and a privilege, and there are no words to thank you. And you are Nissim and Niflaot. What happened to you, just unbelievable Nissim.
It was a very simple story.
No, it's not so simple. But Hashem's hand was there. You had,
I managed to avoid all this, all the dodging all this, the gas chambers.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I just want to wish you just Mazel Brocha and Admei V'Srim in good health, and thank you very, very much.
I thank you for everything. And thank you for the present.
Yisroel, it's been such an honor and a privilege, and I cannot thank you enough.